vanachari Yamuna Tira vanachari Shurayo Bhagavatam Vadanti
Yasuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti
Pura Maya Proktam Ajayanabhye
Maya Proktam Ajayanabhye
Padme Nishanaya Mamari Sarge
Padme Nishanaya Mamadi Sarge
Jnanam Param Mahima Bhavasam
Jnanam Paraman Mahima Bhavasam
Yatsuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti
Yatsuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti Maya Proktam Ajayanabhye Padme Nishanaya Mamadi Sarge Jnanam Paraman Mahima Bhavasam Yasuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti Pura Maya Proktam Ajayanabhye Padme Nishanaya Mamadi Sarge Jnanam Paraman Mahima Bhavasam Yatsuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti Puramaya Proktam Ajayanabhye Padme Nishanaya Mamadi Sarge Jnanam Paraman Mahima Bhavasam Yatsuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti Puramaya Proktam Ajayanabhye Padme Nishanaya Mamadi Sarge Jnanam Paraman Mahima Bhavasam Yasuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti
Puramaya Proktam Ajayanabhye Padme Nishanaya Mamadi Sarge Jnanam Paraman Mahima Bhavasam Yatsuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti
More of these?
Puramaya Proktam Ajayanabhye Padme Nishanaya Mamadi Sarge Jnanam Paraman Mahima Bhavasam Yatsuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti Puramaya Proktam Ajayanabhye Padme Nishanaya Mamadi Sarge Jnanam Paraman Mahima Bhavasam Yatsuryo Bhagavatam Vadanti Aroptamajayanabe Admenishanayamadisarge Jnanam Paraman Mahimavabhasam Yat Surya Bhagavatam Vadanti.
All right. Word for word. So, Pura. In the days of yore. Maya. By me. Proktam. Was said. Ajaya. Unto Brahma. Nabhye. Out of the navel. Padme. On the lotus. Ishanaya. Unto the one situated on. Nama. My. Adi Sarge. In the beginning of creation. Jnanam. Knowledge. Param. Sublime. Mat Mahima. My transcendental glories. Avabhasam. That which clarifies. Yet. Which. Shuryaha. The great learned sages. Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam. Vadanti. Do say. Okay. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that goes out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sages describe as Srimad Bhagavatam. The explanation of the Supreme Self as given to Brahma and already explained in the second canto of this great literature is further clarified herein. The Lord said that the concise form of Srimad Bhagavatam as explained to Brahma was meant to elucidate his personality. The impersonal explanation of those 4 verses in the second canto is nullified herewith. Sridhar Swami also explains in this connection that the same concise form of Bhagavatam concerned the pastimes of Lord Krishna. It was never meant for impersonal indulgence. Om Jnanatamannasya Gananjanjana Salakaya Chakshurununitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaganamayam Vidati Swaparantikam Vande Ham Shri Guru Shukta Parakamalam Shingurum Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagratam Sahagana Raganatam Nitam Tam Sujivam Savadvitam Savadvitam Harijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Bhaktan Sahagana Haritam Shri Vishakamitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vikas Swami Nitinamane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vikas Swami Nitinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadine Vishesh Shankarani Vashyatara Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Chaitanya Prasada Swayam Vedasam Yakara Puramaya Proktam Ajaya Nabhye Padme Nishanaya Mamadi Sarge Gyanam Param Man Mahima Vavasam Yakshurayo Bhagavatam Vadanti. O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sages describe as Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Krishna is winding up his pastimes and leaving this planet, and as was discussed previously, I think by Kalki-Prabhu, that Krishna told Uddhava, so Krishna spoke to Uddhava Gita to Uddhava and gave him very many instructions, pretty much paralleling the same things explained in Bhagavad Gita, a little bit different. the same teachings are spoken, as we understand in the Bhagavad Gita. Was it Imam Vishvate Yogam Proktavam Maham Amvayam Vivaswamanave Prahor Manuvaswaka Prave Bravit. That Krishna spoke that same transcendental knowledge to Vivaswan, and so it was spoken in that way. So the knowledge and the essence of the knowledge is the same, but it may be different how it's explained. Just like, and for instance, also in the fourth canto, with Dhruva Maharaj, he was killing so many of the yakshas. So the same Swayambhuva Manu came and spoke the same transcendental knowledge that, you know, you're not this body and such thing. So it's the same knowledge, but the application of that knowledge is a little different, because Swayambhuva Manu was imploring Dhruva Maharaj to not fight, whereas Krishna was speaking this knowledge that you're not this body and do your duty and such things, to implore Arjuna not to fight. So similarly, this transcendental knowledge is so Uddhava was given that, spoken that same knowledge, and so he was told to go to Prabhash. So Namani Hoda Prabhu was explaining that Uddhava was told to go to Prabhash, but he didn't go directly to Prabhash, that he went and to see because he understood that Krishna would be leaving this material world. So he went to go and have a final darshan. And so this is the situation that's going on here. And so previous classes have discussed on that, the situation, the scene at hand. So Krishna is speaking this verse to Uddhava, and previous to that he was speaking that you're a dear devotee of mine and you're going back to the spiritual world and such like that. So in this verse, Krishna is explaining that, and pretty much in the beginning of creation, that he spoke to Brahma some slokas or some jnanam, gave him some knowledge, and that knowledge was considered as the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Chatur Slokis. And so it's important to note, because otherwise some people don't have that understanding, but the Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains the transcendental glories of Krishna, and that's specifically mentioned here by, what is this, Mahima, my transcendental glory. So, and so of course, and we'll get into a little bit of that, and Prabhupada brings out the point in the purport, but specifically the transcendental glories of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Srimad Bhagavatam isn't some impersonal work. It's specifically talking about Krishna, the sanam bonum of the Absolute Truth, which is the personal feature of the Absolute Truth. So it's Krishna as a person. And so this verse supports that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is discussing that. And similarly, those who are acharyas, or great teachers, they similarly follow that same conclusion. If one cannot be an acharya, a spiritual master, a teacher, or whatever it is, if they don't know the science of Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya explained that. What is that? Kiva vipa kiva nasi shuja keni noi ye Krishna tattva veda se guru hoy. So one has to know the science of Krishna to be a guru, to be a spiritual master, to have any weight in any spiritual circles. Just like nowadays, it's very common for people to claim to be very spiritual, but they have no idea what is spiritual. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were at this college campus, and then so one of the discussions for the philosophy class was like, what is spiritual and material? And so there was some discussion, but if you talk to somebody, they have no clear conception of what spiritual is and what material is. And anyways, I was just thinking, but it's clear to us because we get the information from Srila Prabhupada, the knowledge. But then also too, it is complicated because things that are spiritual can seem material, just like distributing books. That is spiritual activity. It's the topmost. But it seems material because you're just going out and talking to people, and then you have books which are, they're this paper and stuff like that, and then you're collecting Lakshmi for that, and that seems like a material transaction. Something more spiritual, and that misconception is there sometimes, would be just to sit in a solitary place and chant Hare Krishna or whatever, chant some mantras. So it can be confusing about what is actually spiritual. But we understand that anyways, one aspect of material is, of course, anything that is not engaged in Krishna service, and everything that is engaged in Krishna service is spiritual. And that is upheld and taught by our Vaishnava Acharyas. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur very much so held that principle by dressing very nicely and riding in fancy cars and such things, and showing that how all these things can be engaged in Krishna service. But another aspect of material is just, the material world, things that have a beginning, middle, and end, like that, and such. And what is this called? Also, that we understand spiritual is one understanding of it is that it produces that when the soul is present in things, that it produces byproducts, it grows and stuff like that. Like trees, animals, human beings, stuff like that. So, but most of the days we see the people, they don't have a clear conception of what spiritual is. And so anyways, they write very many books and they give very many talks, and there's no clear understanding of that. And even within religion also, people, they accept that to have God's favor or to be very much pleased by God is that one gets a lot of money or one is well known in society or such things. So the Srimad Bhagavatam establishes what the absolute truth is, and what the absolute truth is, our relationship with that, and then the process to obtain that. So, what is it? Sambandha abhideyam prayojan. So it's described early on in Bhagavatam, is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The supreme absolute truth is Vasudev. And then, Vyasadeva explains that, this, what is it? Janmanya Sriyato. That whole verse explaining this is the absolute truth. He's going to be Swarat, he's independent. Abhiga, he knows everything. He's a person. So he establishes the very beginning of Bhagavatam. So this is what we're talking about. This is the absolute truth. And then all the other cantos hit on that point that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then like that too, we have a proper describing what that is, and then our relationship with him, and then also activities that constitute that. And that is what the Gurus speak, the Vaishnavas speak, and the Shastra go at. So Srila Prabhupada makes a point in this purport, and whoever's on the screen can pull this up, because I'll just read a couple verses. So you can go to Canto 2, Chapter 9, just go to the index, and go to text 31. So Srila Prabhupada makes this point in the purport, that what does he say here exactly? Let's see, so he says, it's down here. So Sri Goswami explains. So Bhagavatam concerned the pastime of Lord Krishna was never meant for personal indulgence. So the thing with that, so specifically with these 4 verses, which we'll read through. So the Bhagavatam is clearly meant to glorify Krishna and understand who Krishna is, not the impersonal aspect of Brahman feature or whatever, impersonalists take as the topmost. So just read a little bit from that and then talk about some of those verses. So this isn't the Chatur Sloki in of itself, but this is kind of leading up to that. So the personality of the Godhead said, knowledge about me, as described in the scriptures, is very confidential. It has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up clearly. All of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendental existence, color, qualities, and activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization out of my causeless mercy. So this is beginning the Chatur Sloki, and then we'll come back to this one and discuss that a little bit. So, Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything, created, and at the same time, I am outside everything. A person who is searching after the absolute truth, the personality of God, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, both directly and indirectly. So that's it. So you can go to verse, I think that's 33. I wish I had this up on my phone here. Let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, it is I. And so I'll just pull this up here because I'll read a little bit from the purport. So anyways, so those 4 verses, that's the essence, that's Srimad Bhagavatam in concise form. So if we don't have time to read the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, we can just read that. Just kidding. So this particular verse here, so anyways, I won't be able to do so much justice to it, the impersonal conception, because anyways, it's wrong, and the thing is that we have the translation of this by, Vaishnav, by Srila Prabhupada, and predecessor acharyas, but I'm assuming that the impersonalists, that with these different verses, they change it completely, and then they come out with an impersonal conception of this. Not just conception, but also translation. Because we see that, Prabhupada would mention about, I think it was Dr. Radha Krishna, that this Manmana verse, he would say, well, it's not to Krishna, it's the unborn manifest within Krishna. Anyways, like that. So the impersonalists, the thing is, their consciousness is Abhisuddha Buddhaya, it's impure. And so that's made in the Garbha Shruti of in the 10th canto, that these people, that they think themselves falsely liberated, they rise up to the Brahman platform, but their intelligence is impure. So the impersonalists, with their impure intelligence, they read Shastra and they analyze it and they do their whole grammar thing. And then they, out of that, they take out this impersonalistic conclusion, which is absolutely wrong. And so they've done that with these particular verses. And so Srila Prabhupada comments on that on these purports. And I'll just read some of that here. Just pretty much like the first paragraph, and then I'll kind of highlight on some of that. So we should note very carefully that the personality of Godhead is addressing Lord Brahma and specifying with great emphasis himself, pointing out that it is he, the personality of Godhead, who existed before the creation. It is he only who maintains the creation, and it is he only who remains after the annihilation of the creation. Brahma is also a creation of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalists put forth the theory of oneness, in the sense that Brahma, also being the same principle of I, because he is an emanation from the I, the absolute truth, is identical with the Lord, the principle of I, and that there is thus nothing more than the principle of I, as explained in this verse. Accepting the argument of the impersonalists, it is to be admitted that the Lord is the creator I, and that the Brahma is the created I. Therefore, there is a difference between the two I's, namely the predominator I and the predominated I. So I guess I'll finish this. So therefore, there are still two I's, even accepting the argument of the impersonalists. But we must note carefully that these two I's are accepted in the Vedic literatures, Katha Upanishad, in the sense of quality. So the impersonalists, when they read Bhagavatam or whatever, or when they see the world, because their intelligence is impure, they don't see, they see things correctly up to one sense, but when it comes down to seeing that the Supreme Absolute Truth is a person, and that we are not that Supreme Absolute Truth, then that's where they get confused. And so this is mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this Tattva-masti, that that you are that supreme, that spiritual quality or existence or whatever. So they take that as the Mahavak, that is the main truth of the Vedas, and so they place so much emphasis on that. The correct understanding of that is that we are spiritual, but not in quality, not in quantity. So they take this aham, it says I, and anyways, we'll discuss that a little bit. So they take that, that you are this or that, and then anyways, this is the Dvaitavad. And so that thing, and anyways, and then they juggle words that actually that thing that you are, and there's different schools of that, but what that thing that you are, you can't use words to describe it because it's beyond words. And then they juggle in that sense. And then whatever, they study Vedanta and all those things. So it's beyond words and you can't describe it, but you are that ultimate truth. And then the whole point of life is to realize, to come to the point that, all these different things in the world, this identity that you have in the material world, that ultimately that all doesn't exist. It's illusory, but the only reality is that that I-ness. So you have to understand that you are the supreme absolute truth. And so this is the philosophy that they preach. And then so they interpret the Bhagavatam verses in this way, that these Chatur Slokis, they misconstrue that meaning out of that. Just like reading here. So Prabhupada's making the point, the purport, that there's two eyes. That there's Brahma and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But anyways, they take it as that eye is the same, that Krishna and like that. And anyways, there's so many different faults with their philosophy, but anyways, we're discussing a little bit of it today. But Srila Prabhupada makes it really clear, and so like that. And so anyways, their point is that to realize that there's no difference between, the self and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Prabhupada clearly establishes that there is a difference. And it's simple like that, but then there's whole philosophies that go on juggling and trying to understand that. And then that was the whole problem, one of the problems with Prakashananda Saraswati, that he was, really so much emphasizing that. And we can see that these people that, they're not just like foolish, they're super intelligent, and then they know Shastra and they can explain it and they study it. But they're, for different reasons, their intelligence is impure, or they have envy in the heart of Krishna, and they can't accept that, pretty much they accept this philosophy, some people, with the idea, not with the idea, but with this inclination in the heart, because they see, well, I've been suffering in this material world so much, everything's been going wrong. So the problem is that, instead of the Vaishnava correct understanding is that all these problems are there because we haven't surrendered onto Krishna. But the impersonalist take, well, all the problems are there, and it's just because I haven't come to the conclusion that actually I am God. That's the problem, and I have to realize that. So they go to the other extreme. And it's mentioned that is the last snare of Maya. It's when the living entity actually begins to think that he's supreme. I'm God and I just forgot it. So this is the problem with the impersonalists. And so this is actually the biggest material desire, to actually for the living entity to think that he is supreme, that he is Bhagavan or whatever. And so like that. And let's see here. And so this Srila Prabhupada in this purport, he quotes this Nityo Nityanam. So that verse particularly, so Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vididati Kama. So that verse in particular explains that there are two living entities, the big Bhagavan and then the small, the Jiva. And the main difference between those is that Bhagavan is supplying all the necessities for the living entities, like that, and fulfilling their desires. So just read a little bit of that here also. This is what Prabhupada says. So the creator I and the created I are both accepted in the Vedas as qualitatively one, because both of them are nityas and chaitanas, so eternal and conscious. But the singular I is the creator I, and the created I's are a plural number because there are many I's, like Brahma and those generated by Brahma. It is the simple truth. The Father creates or begets a Son, and the Son also creates many other sons, and all of them may be one as human beings, but at the same time, from the Father, the Son, and the grandsons, all are different. The Son cannot take the place of the Father, nor can the grandsons. Simultaneously, the Father, the Son, and the grandsons are one and different also. As human beings, they are one, but as relatives, they are different. Therefore, the relatives of the Creator and the created, or the predominator and the predominated, have been described in the Vedas by saying that the predominator, I, is the feeder of the predominated I's. And thus, there is a vast difference between the two principles of I. So, this purport goes on to explain that a lot. I'll kind of take a little break there of explaining that. But the point is that we may wonder why this is important, that we understand that, that we're not meant to merge into absolute truth, and we don't accept the Dvaita Bhava, we know it's bogus, we have the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada explained that so much, that, there's so many reasons why that would be unimportant. Well, one reason that is important, or just one aspect of understanding of that, is that Srila Jiva Goswami found it so important to go to Varanasi and study the Mayavad conclusion in order to refute it. So our acharyas place high emphasis on that. Two reasons of it being that we're living in this world and we're trying to spread and preach Krishna consciousness, so we'll naturally encounter these different ideas of people think of different things. And like nowadays, some of this philosophy is very prevalent, just like Buddhism, for instance. And they teach pretty much the same thing, but a different way. Ultimately, their conclusion that nothing is God, that God doesn't exist, the soul doesn't exist, and that when you die, everything's finished. And so anyways, these philosophies lead to rampant hedonism, because then if there's no ultimate goal to life, and doesn't matter, and if you die, it doesn't matter what happens, because nothing exists anyway, and there's no soul, there's no God, then all you're left with is just the material body. So what's the point of tapasya or anything if all you have to enjoy is the material body? And so we see that, and people they just in those countries, they just enjoy like anything. And Bhakti Vikas Maharaj would make the point in Thailand that there's some saying, I forget exactly, but they pretty much are saying that the goal of life is just to enjoy. And he was saying, well, then when you die, there's like reincarnation, and then if you eat pigs, you'll be born as a pig. And then they were saying, well, the goal of life is to enjoy, and I'll enjoy now, and then if I'm born as a pig, I'll just enjoy. So there's just no conception of just of anything else. So this is what happens when people take up the Mayavad. And then we also see the perverted reflection of that in the West, this neo-Mayavad, neo-Dvaitavad, where it's just completely cut off from any connection to the Vedas, and just, everything is one, it's all love, and then people just go crazy. Because anyways, there's so much that can be said about that, but especially at these spiritual conventions and so much, people, what just speaks so much. I mean, even too, this whole nonsense Osho movement, it was just based around having sex, more or less. It's a sex cult. And so anyways, that's taken as spiritual. So there's no parameters, there's no rules and regulations. You can just do what you want. And then you come up with amazing philosophy that if it feels good, just do it. So it's important to understand these misconceptions and explain them for the benefit of others. And also too, we may similarly have Mayavad tendencies. Srila Prabhupada commented in one of his disciples, I believe he wanted to get rid of the Vaishnava dress, and I think the Sikha also, but pretty much the whole, and this was the beginning of the movement in probably 67 or 68. And so, probably 68. So anyways, he wanted to get rid of the Vaishnava dress and things like that, and tilak and stuff. So Prabhupada made the point that this is a contamination of Mayavad, of impersonalism. So that is also, so that impersonalism may run rampant in our own lives. So we should understand, what that is, of taking away the personal aspects of the Supreme Absolute Truth. For instance, Krishna likes certain things to eat. So we cook those preparations in the temple for Krishna. For instance, on Brajbhog offerings, you don't offer pizza to Krishna, because Krishna doesn't eat pizza. Generally, it's, the standard, rice, dal, sabji, things like that. Of course, there's some allowance if those things aren't available in certain parts of the world, time, place, and circumstance. But that's the general standard. So that the whole point of cooking those things is that because Krishna likes it. Krishna's a person, he has likes and dislikes. But then if we think, well, what the heck, why are we cooking rice and dal and this and that? What's the point? I like this, I like that, or, Krishna's, Supreme Personality of Godhead, whatever. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we cook Krishna, because it's all the same, whether we cook this or cook that. And we run into that mood of Mayavad, of stripping away the personal feature of the absolute truth of Krishna. And whatever, or it could just be, just plain out motivation or sense gratification on our part that we like this, so therefore, we offer Krishna that. And there's room for that, but specifically in the temple, we should offer Krishna what he wants and what he likes. So, and there's so many different ways that can run rampant. Just like previously also, there was we had one person here who was visiting, and he had been associating with devotees, I think, for a year or two, and chanting and stuff like that. But then he thought, in just the course of conversation, and he's reading the books and everything, but he had the idea that ultimately that were parts and parcel of Krishna, and then we merged back into Krishna. I don't know if you remember that. I don't want to get into the details of who that was. But but that was like his conclusion. And so he said that, and then everybody was like, whoa, that's not our philosophy. But he had been around for some time, but then, so the point is that it's important to discuss these things, because we may not have a clear conception of what Krishna is. Or we may be reading the books, but then still, for some reason, it's not clicking in our head of what that means. And Srila Prabhupada also, we see in the beginning of his movement that one of the devotees went off on this whole impersonal trip, and then Prabhupada was immediately establishing that Krishna is a person. So this is a super important point to make sure that we have down. And our acharyas, they similarly explain that from time and time again and establish that point. And the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita and their commentaries, because the bhakti will not fully develop if we think that Krishna ultimately is impersonal. And anyways, Krishna establishes that also in the Bhagavad Gita. He makes the point that he is the basis of Brahman and things like that. And I believe that's explained in the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and in other places also. So anyways, so it's important to know those things. So the coming and understanding that conclusion. So the point of Srimad Bhagavatam is to glorify Krishna and glorify his devotees. And we see that, and it goes hand in hand. Glorification of Krishna's, Prabhupada would say that at one point, that there's a transcendental competition between Krishna and his devotees to see who can serve each other, better. So the devotees are trying to serve, so like we see also that's there with Madhavendra Puri. That Madhavendra Puri was fasting and chanting all day and absorbed in love of Godhead. And so he followed a particular, I don't want to say vrata, but anyways, one particular aspect, or I guess maybe one dharma, one rule of sannyasa ashram. So he wasn't begging for food. If someone would come and give him food, then he would take. Otherwise he wouldn't take, like that. Because you can go and you can ask somebody, oh, I'm hungry, can you give something? Yeah, sure, I'll give something. But then if you're going to wait for somebody to ask you if you want something, that's a little bit more tricky. So anyway, so he was fasting like that and absorbed in Krishna and chanting Krishna's holy names. And then Krishna personally came to him and gave him some milk. I believe it was milk, but Krishna came, and then there's that nice picture actually of that, which is one of my top favorite pictures. But Krishna's coming and bringing him milk, and then he says, I forget exactly what Krishna says, but he makes the point that nobody fasts in my village, and so he gives him some milk, and then he leaves, and Madhavendra Puri is thinking, who was that beautiful boy? Like, where did he go? So we see like that there's this, and then also Madhavendra Puri goes, and then he conducts this amazing worship for this deity on top of Govardhan, and arranges a mass amount of prasadam, a huge amount. There's so many vats of rice, dal, different sabjis. That's given there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You'll read that soon in the Madhya Lila. It's an amazing pastime, actually. And so similarly, Krishna's anxious to serve him, and he's anxious to serve Krishna. And then there's also that pastime when Madhavendra Puri is also thinking of, he sees the sweet rice, and he's thinking he'd like to taste it to see what the flavor is, so that he can similarly offer that to Gopal, I believe. And then he's thinking, it's not even, what am I thinking? I'm thinking about taking this and whatever, this is, material. And then he leaves. And then the Pujari has a dream that night that, Madhavendra Puri, that he's out here, he's wandering around in love of Godhead. And so I saved some sweet rice for him in the back behind the altar. And so he goes and sees, and it's like, that's like crazy. We can just imagine if we have some dream and we go in the back, and then there's like some, the offering from some kheer, some amazing prasadam, and it's like save that for some devotee. We'd be like, oh my God, and then we'd be even more amazed that wow, I get to give this to this great devotee, and just completely blown away just by the whole thing. It'd be completely ecstatic. So then that Pujari goes and he's calling out where's Manavendra Puri? This Kishore Gopinath, he's stolen this sweet rice for you. And so he saved it. Who's the most fortunate person? So then Manavendra Puri gets that and he eats it, and then he saves it and he even eats the pieces of the clay pot day by day. Because when you're that fired up, it's why not? So so then in this way there's this constant reciprocation between the Lord and his devotees of who can be the best servant. And so in this way it goes on. And so this is the interaction of bhakti, of relationship with Krishna and his devotees. And so this exchange is going on. And so naturally where there's Krishna and his devotees, and then simultaneously they both are glorified. And this is explained and expanded in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but also to just this principle that the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to glorify Krishna and his devotees. There's a nice verse in this connection. This is also a verse I like a lot. Just read the translation. So this is from the 12th canto. You don't have to bring it up, but 12th canto, 13th chapter, I think text 19. So yeah. So I meditate upon that pure and spotless supreme absolute truth, who is free from suffering and death, and who in the beginning personally revealed this incomparable torchlight of knowledge to Brahma. So the Chatra Sloki. Brahma then spoke it to the sage Narada, who narrated to the Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas. Srila Vyas revealed his Bhagavatam to the greatest of sages, Sukadeva Goswami, and Sukadeva mercifully spoke it to Maharaj Pariksha. So this is the parampara of speaking and glorifying and expanding upon the glories of Krishna. Because we see that Krishna spoke this first to Brahma in 4 concise verses explaining the entirety of Srimad Bhagavatam. And our acharyas unpack that, but it's almost hard to imagine how is the Srimad Bhagavatam just in those 4 verses. But it is. And so acharyas are able to really pull that out and explain, well, this word means this and this word means that, and then this is in connection with that pastime and Krishna like this and like that. Just for instance, I was reading before the class this Pranava mantra Om. So anyways, my understanding of Om before Krishna consciousness was that this is just the pretty much this was the impersonal feature of the absolute truth, Brahman or whatever. But Srila Jiva Goswami explains that actually this Om, it means Krishna, Radha, and the Jiva. So that's pretty, so the acharyas are able to understand that and explain that. I never would have been able to come up to that conclusion, even after reading all the books, unless I would have seen that. I would have been oh, really? That's what that means. So, but we don't chant that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that we chant Hare Krishna, and so that's the process our acharyas taught, and we don't see any of our acharyas just chanting Om. So everything is there in the Chatra Sloki, but then as each guru explains to this disciple, becomes more and more expanded. And so in this, as Krishna is making the point in this verse, is that his transcendental glories, which great sages describe as the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's just being spoken of more and more and more. And so there's a lot that can be said about this. And so it's we have these concise verses. So the Srimad Bhagavatam can simultaneously be explained in so many small verses, but then it also, same thing can be explained in millions of verses. It's unlimited, which is an amazing aspect of Krishna actually, that simultaneously he can be, he's greater than the greatest and also smaller than the smallest. That unlimited amounts of words or books or glorification still cannot adequately describe Krishna or put an end to his glories. But then concisely can be glorified just in, not glorified, but the essence of Bhagavatam can be explained in just 4 verses, or, the Hare Krishna mantra. Just like, for instance, with any great, and of course, to understand and explain it more, that's required to elaborate upon it. But in the material field, it isn't like that. If, understand, nuclear engineering is so many years are meant to study, understand that, and you can't concisely explain that. Like, okay, like this here, this one paragraph has everything concisely, everything you need to know about nuclear engineering. It's so much to it. But that's a great feature of the absolute truth. And the acharyas unpack that, and then it's just like as Lord Chaitanya explained, the storehouse of love of God. And the more that they took out of it, the more that was there. So the more that you unpack the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the more that there is to unpack. And so we see also just like this Atmarama verse, that Lord Chaitanya explained it in 64 different ways. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is unlimited, but according to our realization, different things may come out to us, and we may see different things there, or understand the application of different things that are mentioned according to our level of realization. And so we also see that too if we read Srimad Bhagavatam or read Bhagavad Gita. If we read it, the first time through, and then we read it the second time, then we see there's more realization there, and then it seems, it's more fresh and more new. And then we read it again, and we think, well, I didn't really understand that. And Krishna's saying this here and saying that there, and then that's connected like that, and this connects to Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita in this way, and so like all these different things are there, and this connects to that. And then it just kind of goes on and on. So we read all the Srila Prabhupada's books, and then after we read them all, then it's like, okay, now we're ready to read them again, because now we have some kind of understanding of what's going on. And then we read them again, and then we read them another time. That way, because now, okay, and then after about 3 times reading them, then it's okay, then we read them again. So we just keep reading them over and over, because they're transcendental literatures. Before Krishna consciousness, I read different books, and so I had books that I read many times, and it just got more and more stale. And it was also contaminated. But I remember one specific book that I read it once, and read it twice, and read it 3 times, and then after like 4 times, kind of like, all right, like, I think I had enough of that. Chewing the chewed. I think I understand that. Because that's how it is. That's the nature of just puna charveta charvananam, chewing the chewed. So material happiness is something like someone else, not you, chewing some gum, and this is I don't know if this is common in India, but in America it's common that people chew gum and then they take it out and then they put it underneath the desk at school. So then that kind of dries out, and then it's nice and hard. And then if you take that gum that somebody else chewed and you put it in your mouth and chew it, there's not going to be any flavor there. So this is the nature of material happiness. And so all these different things. There's, you read something, you read a book, or you watch a movie or something, or I guess nowadays you watch YouTube, and it's like, wow, that was like so amazing, that was so inspiring. And then you watch it again, and it's kind of like, oh, okay. And then you know everything also. Just like I know, like watching movies back in the day, like and that was like a big thing. Like, don't say the spoilers. It's like, don't ruin the movie. Whatever, like, and then you watch it, and it's like, oh, it's like, so, like, oh, that was so amazing, that was so crazy, this movie, and this and that, and just like, whatever, and it's like, anyways, there's so many movies like that, and it's just like, wow, like, the whole time, like, I thought that guy was alive, but he was dead, and then it's like the plot twist, or whatever, or like, or the plot twist, the whole movie is being told backwards, or something. So anyways, there's only so many plot twists, but then if you hear the plot twist in the beginning, and then it ruins the whole movie. But Krishna consciousness isn't like that, and Srimad Bhagavatam isn't like that. Just like, Tapas is reading, and you can stand up, just kidding, glorify you. But Tapas is reading in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about Daksha. And so anyways, we've discussed that in class much, and he's heard a little bit about it before, but he was just telling me last night about that pastime and how amazing it is. And so it's, we've all read it, but then it just, because it's transcendental, it's exciting to hear about it again and discuss it again, and then there's more realization there again. And then when you read it through, there's different things you don't remember and discuss. Just like he was telling me that when Daksha was flipping out on Shiva, for no apparent reason. One of the things he said right before he started blaspheming Shiva, which is like completely out of ego, he stood up in the assembly. He was like, I'm just going to say something, and I'm not speaking out of envy, and like I'm being honest, but like, Shiva is just, anyways, I don't want to say what he said, but he just blasted Shiva. And Tapas was also explaining to me that, he was probably, it was probably true, he's probably waiting, he's seeing Shiva, he's like, is he going to stand up? Like, I come into this assembly, is he going to stand up? He's not standing up? All right, he's not standing up. And it's just like crazy. It's like funny, but it's not funny, but it's just like insane that like, how can someone like act like that? Or like think like that? It's mad. But then the Bhagavatam teaches that like, because Daksha more or less was like in one of the top positions in the material world. I mean, he was a direct son of Lord Brahma at that particular point in time. But even in that position, you can get puffed up. And he got super puffed up. And then as a result of that, so much catastrophes happened. And so many people had to suffer just due to mainly because of Vaishnava Aparad, actually. Because he disrespected the great Vaishnava. And so there's so many different realizations of that and understandings that are there. And that's specifically tasted and understood in the association of devotees. And there's that verse. What is that? What is that? Mama virjasam dido. Bhavanti hit karna rasayana kata. So that's mentioned there that in the association of devotees, that devotional service is relished and understood. And so all these different meanings of Srimad Bhagavatam come out. And as time goes on, similarly, great spiritual masters and devotees will continue to comment upon Srimad Bhagavatam and Prabhupada's purports in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then bring out so many other depths and intricacies and share more realizations unto the unlimited nature of the supreme absolute truth. Would you brought up that verse? I'll just read it here. So, in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. So that's a famous sloka that's quoted often. And so just hearing and chanting that Srimad Bhagavatam. But another angle of understanding this also is, and this is an important point too, but that by regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, there should be some change in our life, in our consciousness, and the way that we behave. And we see that, like for instance with so many different, but Brahma, for instance, he had these questions, he heard Srimad Bhagavatam, and then there was a change, and then he understood his position and like that. And these can be elaborated on very much so. But all throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, where we see this guru-disciple relationship, and then this being spoken of, that there's a change in character. You can pull this up here. So Canto 1, Chapter 5, text 10 and 11. So the point is that Srimad Bhagavatam, it's meant to change our heart. It's not like some other mundane literature. You have that here? So I'll just read that. So anyways, those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. You could stay there for a second. So a pilgrimage of crows. And I think it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes a point that all these mundane literatures, which, they don't describe Krishna and whatever, and there may be so many names to that. I don't really know what's like topmost literatures nowadays that are like best-selling, whatever, Karmi literatures. But I know back in the day there was Harry Potter, that was super famous. Lord of the Rings, I think that was more famous as a movie, but that was a book. Twilight, that was really famous. And he was a Captain Underpants, unfortunately, I can't remember so much. But all these like different Goosebumps, yeah. I'm trying to see if I can remember. Oh, there was that other thing too. What was it? I can't remember the name exactly. Hunger Games, yeah, that was it actually. But then, but Vishwanath Thakur says that these books are just, people who are like prostitute hunters take pleasure there. And the thing is, there's no substantial reality in these books. It's just someone's imagination. They spit it out on the paper, and then by reading it, you get contaminated and increases your material desires. So the point is that it's by reading Harry Potter or by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, it's not the same. If we read these literatures that are not transcendental, they may give some inspiration or whatever, and there may be some small change in our life, but the biggest change is going to come by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, by the Bhagavad Gita. We don't really hear so much that people read, anyways, there's also other books there. I'll discuss a little bit about those, but like someone read Harry Potter or read Twilight or read, anyways, I wish I knew something that was a little bit more relevant, but I don't. Animal, bro, that's no. Animal Farm. Yeah, but those are all kind of like older. Anyways, I guess the classics. But anyways, the point is that, people that read those books, generally like, you don't read those and then I read Harry Potter and then I was so inspired to like overtook the government or something like that. Anyways, you see that happens with people with like, reading like the Communist Manifesto or different things like that. And other like books that are a little bit more inspiring, but even still those, the Communist Manifesto, and whatever, Animal Farm, he mentioned that, which is pretty much, a satire on communism. But like the Communist Manifesto, some people read that and were inspired by that, but then they just made material changes. And then, anyways, and then so much disaster and calamity was caused by that, the Communist Manifesto, with the rise of Stalin and the atrocities that he did. And then there's the whole atheistic push of the USSR at that particular point in time. But anyways, the point is that these literatures, even if they do inspire people, which most of them don't, and anyways, people don't read these much these days anyways, but if people read these books, the inspiration they give will not have a long-lasting effect. Or if they do get some inspiration, it'll be on the material platform, and it'll just be yasmat priya priya viyoga samyoga janma. It'll just be, just moving the burden from one part of the body or like that. It's just not really solving the problem in and of itself. Or just the remedies for the miseries are more miserable than the misery itself. So, but in text 11, we have this point here, which is the next verse, which is a famous verse. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of the descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words, directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. So this is the nature of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is the result, is that it's meant to cause a revolution. And it's not just some poetic terms or such like that. It's meant to change completely the course of the material world. And this is the mission and the desire of Srila Prabhupada and also the predecessor Acharyas to change the misdirected current of modern civilization, to upset the tide of Kali Yuga, to put a stop to the rule of Kali in this age, of fighting and pushing and establishing the Sankirtan movement. So this is the nature of Srimad Bhagavatam. It glorifies Krishna. It's amazing to hear. It glorifies his devotees. But simultaneously, it's meant to cause a revolution in people's lives. They're meant to read Srimad Bhagavatam or hear Srimad Bhagavatam or associate with the person Bhagavat. And then there's meant to be a change in their life in which they're, what is this? Mendya Priti Vancha Bale. Help me out. Mendya Priti Dari Pramana. I can't remember it. But anyways, but the point is that that sense. So what is this? So sense gratification is that which satisfying one's own selves, but then to satisfy Krishna's senses, that is proper. You pull it up, or Amendriya Priti Vancha Thari Bale Kam Krishnendriya Priti Ichi Dhari Premanam. And then, so the desire to gratify one's senses is kama, but the desire to please the senses of Krishna is prema, love. So this is the conclusion that people should have by coming into contact with the Srimad Bhagavatam and by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and by associating with devotees. They should be able to understand what is sense gratification, and then what is sense gratification? What's proper sense gratification? What's improper sense gratification? So improper sense gratification is just to please the senses of the body, to be completely divorced of Krishna. But then proper sense gratification is to please Krishna senses. And when we please Krishna senses, we are naturally satisfied. And so Srimad Bhagavatam is being manifest in different devotees' lives in different ways. And we see that throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. With Dhruva Maharaj, he's the way in which he heard the teachings of Bhagavatam, and he had the association of the person Bhagavat, Narada Muni, was different than Vyasadev's situation. Dhruva Maharaj was desiring to get a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma. He was fired up in that way. And Vyasadeva, for instance, was despondent because he was saying, I wrote all these different things, but I'm feeling some lacking. something is missing. And so Narada Muni spoke, and then also we see with Prahlad Maharaj, for instance. I mean, Prahlad is received shiksha in the womb, and like that. So, and then his situation, all their situations were different. Prahlad they wanted to wait for him to be born to kill him. His mother was kidnapped by Indra. And so, Narada Muni protected him. He gave that word that this is going to be a great devotee, do not kill him. And so he gave that protection. And so then that simultaneously those words came true when, Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill Prahlad Maharaj, because he was saying, where's your God? Is he in this pillar? Prahlad Maharaj said yes, but then he went to go, he's like, otherwise I'm going to sever your head from your shoulders with my sword. And so, but Narada Muni had spoken that, and then Prabhupada makes that point in the purport that Narada Muni said given Prahlad Maharaj protection. So then that's also explained that Nrsimhadev also appeared to prove the words true of his devotee. Prahlad Maharaj is saying like that. Anyways, let me just pull up that verse. I think that is 7, 9, 29. But that's some side point. Anyways, you have to pull it up. But so, just to stay on point. So this guru-disciple relationship, and then how that Srimad Bhagavatam is manifesting. And then we see that so much here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, just like right now, for instance, Vidura was receiving instruction and hearing the pastimes of Krishna. These previous chapters were talking about that. Uddhava was speaking, and like that. And then Maitreya will also speak and give some understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam and of creation and different things like that. And then he will also continue to speak, and then that whole Dhruva Maharaj, the Daksha, the whole fourth canto, all that is narrated by Maitreya Muni. And so this manifestation of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then we see too, that just bringing nowadays, Srila Prabhupada, he gave that same thing of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is being mentioned here in the purport, explaining the transcendental glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This word mentioned in this Mahima is the transcendental glories. So explaining that, elucidating upon that, of the personality of the Supreme of Krishna's personality, of his likes and dislikes and all those things like that. And then similarly, this is parampara, but then his disciples also explaining that and speaking that, distributing that, and sharing the nature of Srimad Bhagavatam and distributing that also. And then so many devotees are, distributing those sets of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is amazing. And it's really inspiring to see that so many people are taking the whole Srimad Bhagavatam set, and they're really inspired by that. And it's amazing to see that, especially when they see that, and then they feel like so much attraction and so moved to get that. It's really amazing, actually, or when they're convinced to take it. And it's the potency of Srila Prabhupada's books, and it's not us, it's because we're simply being an instrument and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. And distributing books for some time, you realize that, because you can go and say the same thing all day, nobody takes any books, or just one or two people, and then another day you go, you say the same exact thing, and then it's like so many people are taking books. I think you have experience of that. You know, so it's like really, it's really inspiring and really amazing. And then it's like that. I remember anyways, and then it just, but that link that is Krishna's mercy, the Guru's mercy, Vaishnava's mercy, that Krishna sends people to take the books. You know, or people are going, how is it? You know, someone's, you know, what do we have to do when somebody comes and they're going through a crazy situation in their life and they're just looking for some, you know, some spiritual book, or they wanted Bhagavad Gita specifically, and then somehow that we run into them. Was that like, okay, well, we can think like that. Well, I woke up this morning and left the house at this exact time and stepped out, and all these different things I did, and so I was here for that. And, you know, it was all arranged by Krishna. Yeah, they missed their flight, you know, whatever. It's amazing all the different things that happen. Or they miss their Uber or whatever, or they get stranded somewhere, or they get Prabhupada's books, or they meet the devotees. So Krishna is arranging all that, and we should understand that, and that we're an instrument in that. And to be an instrument means that, you know, we just serve. It's not that we don't have to be, you know, that someone else is doing, you know, X amount of service, so therefore I have to do the same exact service as them, you know, whatever. Krishna's pleased by our attitude and our endeavor and our surrender. And it's not that the spiritual master that, you know, that unless you go out and you go to, Afghanistan and you preach and you distribute all, you know, you translate all the books in this language and do this and do that, and then you initiate all the people and you make all the Muslims into Vaishnavas, only then will you be dear to me. It's not like that. Or you know, you have to be exactly like Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada would make that point. He said specifically about his women disciples, that they're not trying to be like Prabhupada and go to Japan and travel all around like that. He was saying that they're not trying to do that. That they're satisfied simply by serving simply in the temple and like that, taking care of their families. So the main thing is that we should bring is, if we have our proper attitude in Krishna consciousness, because we can do huge things for Krishna, but then have an improper attitude, and then it'll spoil the whole thing. Of course, we should do big things for Krishna. Richard Prabhu was making that point yesterday, and Achyutananda Prabhu, and Prabhupada said that, but Achyutananda Prabhu, I don't know if he told Prabhupada that, but he was telling me that back in the day, that Prabhupada liked that, to do big things for Krishna. But then it may not be in our capacity individually to do big things. But the main essence of it is that we should take seriously this instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam given to us by the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas, and go about executing Krishna consciousness to the best of our ability, and always endeavor to render better service, and to try to think how we can render better quality service and please Krishna more. So, distributing so many Srimad Bhagavatam, distributing so many books, but Srila Prabhupada would also emphasize that the books aren't just for distributing, but they're also just for reading. The books aren't just for reading, but they're for distributing. We could say that if we weren't distributing books. Maybe we have to say that nowadays at some temples. The books are for distributing. But we should also be, as serious as we are about distributing books, that should be reciprocal with reading the books. We should be serious about studying the books and understanding them, and explaining them, and distributing them. And it'll go hand in hand. Because if we read the books regularly, then we'll be inspired to distribute the books. And then also, too, it'll help us to stay in Krishna consciousness. Because going out and distributing books and confronting materialists who may be interested in Krishna consciousness or may not be, we have to combat that energy. And when you go out into the big bad world of Maya, that's her domain. We're protected by Krishna, we're protected by Lord Chaitanya, but we may come face to face with things which may be a little disturbing, either visually or just mentally dealing with people. Just like if, for instance, we talk with someone for 3 hours and they don't take a book, that can be pretty disturbing. Or whatever, or we go out there to distribute books, and we're talking with some Mataji, and she's really fired up and loved the books and this and that, and the interaction happens so quick, and she takes a big stack of books, and then immediately she leans in to give you a quick hug and a kiss. That can be pretty disturbing. And it all happens so quick, and then you can't do anything about it. So we have to pray for Lord Chaitanya's mercy, but if we're praying for that mercy, and we're reading the books, and we're taking shelter of the transcendental sound vibration we'll be able to remain steady in our Krishna consciousness, steady in our service, and remain fixed at Krishna's lotus feet. And so that requires hearing. So we hear, and we get inspired to distribute more, and then we distribute more, and then we get inspired to hear. So it kind of all plays in. It's a cycle. There's the vicious cycle, but then there's the blissful cycle. So we want to be in the blissful cycle of Lord Chaitanya's Sacred Tongue movement, under the shelter of our spiritual master and the Vaishnavas. So anyway, there's a couple of things there. I'll end now if there's any questions or comments. Let me see the situation on breakfast. Hare Krishna. Whoever, I don't know. Raise your hand and go for it.
Thank you for the nectar. So this point on the I and I, Prabhupada was differentiating, that this is I and I's is plural, there's a chola, there's also this
Dominated, predominated.
Yeah, and I was just reading also that, of course that, aham is aham, you, or in Bhagavad Gita or something.
Yeah.
He was saying that generally a person they feel very proud to say that aham means like the unmanifest or whatever.
Yeah.
But he said those who are actually learning the grammar, then aham refers to like I, and I refers to a personality.
Yeah.
Like this is like just common grammar.
Yeah.
So he was like, anyone who actually knows grammar, like they know that aham and I refers to the personality, which is like pretty funny. He made it pretty. But also this point you were making about neo Mayavada, whatever, neo-personalism, is like these people, especially you go to universities, like, whenever these people spew this nonsense philosophy, they always think they're the only one who like thinks it, and they have this divine realization of it. Like they're the only one who thinks like, oh, it's impersonal, we can't conceive of it, and they think it's so deep, that one, they think they're the only one who's like been able to, by their intelligence, realize this, as if not a billion other people in this category have the same conclusion. And they usually like I was talking to one guy, and he's just like, yeah, well, like this understanding of knowing who God is, and like person, having a personality, like we don't as have a problem with putting a label on it,
Yeah.
And then it makes more sense that we can't describe it, this and that, but by them saying that they themselves are putting a label on it. They are deciding that they know the truth.
Yeah.
And the truth is indescribable. But and in one sense it is indescribable, but there's some conception of it.
Yeah.
But they think to them that's inconceivable, but it's actually more inconceivable. The personal aspect, like to them apparently it seems more conceivable, and that because it's so obvious, then it's not true. Like a person, it seems too obvious, but they can't conceive of it. They don't know how simultaneously God can be personal, but also expand himself unlimitedly at once. That's inconceivable. But it has to have it has to be formless, and they have all these nonsense analogies as well. But it's completely these neo-impersonalists. They can't conceive of the personal thing. They can't understand how you can be personal and also be inconceivable. So you talk to these college students. So most of them have that same conception. So my comment.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say something, but it's fading away. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, one thing I was going to say was that, I mean, they argue all these different things, and then if you try to speak on like Shastra or something, then they, no Shastra, no books. I don't want to hear what the book says. I want to hear what you say.
You can't go off the books and like, there's no way to understand it basically there's no way to even get to the goal because you can't describe it. There's no means to get to it. So like, why are you talking about it? Yeah. You don't have any way to describe any way to obtain it. You don't know how. So why are you even like trying? It's useless. Like their whole conception is just completely useless. Yeah. Yeah. Can't be described. Anyways, it's funny.
it's really nonsensical. And then we see too that like people that are following that, and they're actually sincere, they're able to like be convinced pretty easily.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. You know, like I think it was Umapati Prabhu at the time, but he was saying that pretty much that like Prabhupada like. Well, he heard Buddhism that you can't say it is and it isn't, you can't say it isn't, you can't say it is, and there's just this whole thing, this whole juggling. He's like, well, that's confusing. And then when he heard like Prabhupada say like Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, he's like, that's like the clearest thing like I've ever heard in my life. So it's a, I've had experience with that also, with all this Advaitavad and stuff before Krishna consciousness. Anyways. You had something? Yeah. Is that mic on? Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, everyone is listening now. You can say.
Hey, so my question is, I came across a new bhakta, and I really noticed a very nice guy. Basically, he's into like hatha yoga also. He's practicing bhakti yoga, but he's also into hatha yoga. And just like, doing stretches for body, like making your body feel good and these things. We're doing okay. But he also mentioned that he likes to chant Om. And, Kalki-Prabhu was saying in the class that we don't chant Om because that's not what our Vaishnava acharyas tell us to do. But this person, he does it for, I guess, bodily comfort. Like, it gives, like, the vibration, the vibration helps him, like his body like be in tune, I guess. So I was wondering, like, is that bona fide? He asked me if he can do that, and I told him like that's not what our acharyas give us. But I didn't really know quite else what to say to him. So
like I said, it's there, but we don't do that. I mean, with every case by case is different. I mean, I would just like make it clear that like what the point of Om is and the point of meditation, and like, okay, like if you feel like this, but just not like in a pushy way, but just like, okay, like this is like there, but then like there's like Hare Krishna, and there's kind of like, the thing is that people have to, you don't have to, but it's good to have like an experience like chanting Hare Krishna. And then, because I used to chant like Om before also, but then like after like being in a kirtan and chanting Hare Krishna, it was like, it's much more ecstatic than like chanting Om. Because there's not like Om kirtans, like it's like with like Hare Krishna, you can like jump up and down, chant, you can run all around. There's like it's more blissful as far as that goes. But anyways, you can just like encourage them to chant and just kind of like give that proper understanding so that he comes to that conclusion. But it's there. But I mean, we don't chant that. I mean, it's kind of like one level. But the main thing is I would be sure to address that there isn't like any like impersonal like misconceptions. And then kind of like the more that one makes advancement and understands the philosophy, they'll understand that it's better to chant Hare Krishna because that ultimately is what's going to please Krishna and Guru and the Vaishnavas more than chanting Om.
Yeah. Prabhupada also said that Om is contained within the Maha Mantra.
Yeah, I said
So
that
like,
too.
you can tell him that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then, if this in the Maha Mantra was difficult to chant.
Yeah.
Krishna. And if they're like, it's the same thing, then they're just an impersonal attachment.
Yeah.
Attachment. But if Prabhupada says Om in the Maha Mantra and you're still like averse to chanting it,
Yeah.
then like what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes that attachment may be there. Like that's seen maybe more so within India. If people are worshiping a particular demigod or something and they chant certain mantras or do a certain puja, they're kind of like, and it's been in their tradition, they're like attached to doing that, and then they kind of want to continue that. And so even though they may understand like that is covered within Krishna consciousness, but there may be some attachment there. So it's case by case. All right. Anything else?
Something quick.
Yeah, sure thing. And he's going a little over because he was saying breakfast is like kind of.
It's quick. You mentioned Dr. Radhakrishnan. I read it in the Gurus one yesterday. Prabhupada was at a Gita conference in 1970, and like he was speaking to like a group of like 8 Indians or something like that, and like he was saying that like Dr. Radhakrishnan's commentary is like bogus because like the thing, his commentary in the Manmanam verse, and like somebody was like, well, Vivekananda also explains like that, and then Prabhupada was like, well, it was like, no, it was bogus what they're explaining, and then the guy was, I I think they must have made some mistake in the shloka.
Oh, I see this. Look. Come on.
And Prabhu was shocked.
Oh my god, that's so crazy.
It just shows they have like a,
Yeah.
whatever, like, they think the book is wrong.
Yeah.
But they, I was amazed to see that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Krishna was like,
Actually, in India also there are different conceptions of impressionism. Like they say Nirgun
Yeah.
means normally gun means
Yeah.
qualities. So they say that he is without qualities, like that they say. But Nirgun means he is not affected by the three modes.
Yes,
That's
yes.
what. Then Nirakar they define like he is formless.
Yes.
But we define that his form is inconceivable. Like it's like we can't conceive that means in the way that if we see in the like he can be the smallest and he can be the biggest, isn't it? So in that way we say universal form is described for these people only.
Yes.
So like the Brahma Kumaris is there, one of the groups, where they meditate on light. And they say that Gita was spoken by Lord Shiva.
Yes. Yes.
And then they again say when we come to that Shiva is speaking about the Lord's glories in the Srimad Bhagavatam, then say that is different Shiva. So that is basically means here also we see in the West they say so there is some absolute power or some some different words they use. Yes, they want to take just the credit from the Lord actually. So it's like the na word is always there. So it's negation of truth actually. Like there are in India, Nirakar Baba, so many things are there actually. So it's like in West also we see that sometimes they say, like example, we met a guy last week and he said, Jesus did these 10 commandments he gave, he followed himself. It was not for him, for us. So means they are differentiating his teachings and him means as in a different way. Means again the same concept is there.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Anything from Margie's side? Okay. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Abhi.
yes.
Let me show you what they
Because you want mercy. And hopefully you get some mercy from wearing that flower garden that's giving a Christian. Hope that's just ready.